طرق وسط الحياة تاهوا فيها ناس وطرق تبان مفروشة ورد وتنتهي بألم وضيق، لكن الطريق للفرحة وطريق الخلاص عند المسيح. أصل المسيح هو الحياة، هو الطريق 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 الطريق
So here we go again. Welcome to the show, and let's go right immediately to how the Muslim Brotherhood is infiltrating all of our institutions in the United States using the First Amendment. Clip number 1.
Once again, we tell the Muslims, don't be afraid to come out. Don't be afraid to speak out against injustice. This is not so much like your countries back at home, where you raise your voice against the government and they come after you and they take you in for torture. No. In this country, one of the loopholes of this government is they allow the freedom of expression, where a man and a woman can go and strip their honor in the strip clubs. We have the same right over here to put this flag down and step on them. It is the same. It is the equivalent to freedom of expression.
So there you have it. That's Muslim Brotherhood. Those are clearly terrorists. They're in New York, and they're discussing how they use the First Amendment to get in and to fool people. And through the clips, as we go through this, we'll see Michael Downing and other people who are in high levels of counterterrorism stating that Islam is a religion and we have to allow all religions into America because the First Amendment, freedom of expression, as those Muslim Brotherhood said in that clip there, can't be stopped. But of course, we know that the First Amendment is not absolute. You cannot have the first church of cannibals where they kill people and eat them during their service. I know that's an extreme, but it gets the point, argumentum ad absurdum to you. We also have Anwar al-Awlaki, who was killed by the United States government several years ago, killed in war because he was doing his religious beliefs, acting out and doing jihad, so we killed him. We have Charles Manson, who just passed away, died, thank God, and he was doing his religion, which was to murder people. And we also did Warren Jeffs, whose religion had him engaging in sex with underage girls, so we threw him into prison forever. You know, it all really comes down to the love of money is the root of all evil. And as you can see here is the Saudi king. I have a larger version here, where you actually have the Saudi Arabian petrodollar influencing the euro, the pound, and the dollar, and the love of money. The death knell of every republic is indeed foreign money, foreign intrigue. The same clip, as you can see now, you have the euro, the Saudi Arabian king here, and the spider web of deceit. Oh, what a terrible web we do weave when at first we practice to deceive. Of course, that's from Canterbury Tales with Chaucer. Al-Wallah means love is Islam, love Islam, and love all Muslims. Contrary to that, under the Islamic thinking, you also have Wal-Bara, which is hate all non-Muslims. So you have hate all non-Muslims, love all Muslims in Islam, and that's exactly what's happening. As we go through these clips very quickly, the central figure is this guy here, now dead, big-time terrorist, thrown in prison for 5 years for terrorism in Egypt. His name is Maher Hathout. Him and his brother Hassan Hathout came into Los Angeles and fooled little wooden heads. You have Michael Downing, who's a counterterrorism commander of Los Angeles. and Salam al-Mariyati, who's also at the center of deceit and lying to all the people in America for the wal bara to hate all the infidels, and the al-wala'a to love Islam and the Muslims, and they fool it. And it always comes back to the love of money. The death knell of every republic is always foreign money. So clip number two.
And Sharia is not a threat to America. What is a threat to America is violent, ideological extremists, and the other side of extremism, which perpetuates hate against small numbers of people. So thank you again. We celebrate today and what we can make of tomorrow. And that's why we're here. This is an American experience. We have our eyes on the future, and we are looking about how to make it better. And this is really the real lesson of America, is that government alone cannot make a better future for us, but it must come from the morality and the civic engagement of you, of us, of the populace.
So he's saying there that Sharia is not a threat to America. In other words, what he's saying is that Sharia law, Islamic law, based on the 22 verses of the Quran, what did Muhammad do, is not a threat to our civil liberties, nor does it influence our cornerstone of majority rules with minority rights. And yet we know for a fact that Sharia law has never permitted civil liberties like the Bill of Rights, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to peaceably assemble to petition the government for redress of grievances. In 14 centuries of Islam, they have never permitted that. So we have this buffoon, Michael Downing, who's a counterterrorism commander, and we know when we go and we investigate Michael Downing, we see Saudi Arabian dollars, we see the spider web of deceit and conceit, and we see the illicit activity of the Muslim Brotherhood coming into the United States, in this case in Los Angeles, but it's the same in Los Angeles, in Seattle, it's the same in Bismarck, North Dakota, it's the same in Albuquerque, it's the same in Dallas, Texas, in Miami, and Atlanta, Georgia, it's the same in Nebraska and Tennessee. It's all the same. They're all coming in here with petrodollars from Saudi Arabia, and their main engagement is to spread Islam any way they can by jihad, by any means that they can. And they use the money to bribe buffoons like Michael Downing and Sheriff Baca and the police in New York and the sheriffs in Texas. They're all doing it the same. Again, we come back to Mariyati of Los Angeles, Maher Hathout, who was thrown in prison for 5 years for being a terrorist in Egypt, comes in and he finds Salam Mariyati, and he gets Salam Mariyati in with the police, in with Council on American Islamic Relations, in with the Claremont School of Theology. And this all goes back to George W. Bush. And in that case, let us go to clip number 3, and we'll come back to George W. Bush.
Where I share a character of one of my closest mentors, Dr. Hathout, who in his late 70s still says that he feels more like a member of the youth than of any other generation. And so it's for that reason that in being invited to come back here, what I thought I wanted to talk about the most was what's on my mind these days the most, which is how we take back our own stories. I have been working with and on behalf of the American Muslim community for my entire adult life, which is at least 15 years since college, put it that way. And I have seen a lot of challenges that we have faced, and I've also seen a lot of ways that we have gotten in our own way as a community. And I think that working with all of you is particularly important to me and touches my heart, because it's not just a slogan to say that you are the emerging leaders. You're not the leaders of tomorrow, you are the leaders of today. Wherever you are leaders. And so you have a zone, each of us has a zone of impact in whether it's in school or in our workplaces or in our families, but we have a zone of impact. And I think it's critically important that we, inshallah, claim that zone of impact, because it's through doing that that we can change not just broader society, but change our community for the better. And so before I get into the subject at hand a little bit more deeply, I want to tell you a little bit about my story so that you know where I'm coming from. And forgive me if you've already heard my story before, but I like to know people's stories, so I try to put them out there too. So the most frequent question I get is, when did you convert? Maybe you were thinking this while you're sitting here. And the truth is that I was born Muslim. My parents are from the former Yugoslavia, which I tell people that I'm from Bosnia.
So she's Muslim Brotherhood. She's with Muslim Public Affairs Council. She's a Bosnian Muslim. She was born and raised in San Diego in California. And she goes in to talk about how she became influenced. Now, she talks about how the Muslim Brotherhood came in and set up. And again, the Muslim Brotherhood is funded by the Saudi Arabians. And again, it all comes back to the death knell of every republic. This foreign money, foreign intrigue. And Muslim Public Affairs Council was created by this terrorist right here, Maher Hadhout, who was thrown in prison for 5 years in Egypt for being a terrorist. And he recruited, this guy Maher Hadhout, recruited Salam al-Mariyati, this guy here, who works with that girl that was right there. She goes on to talk about how she loves Maher Hadhout. And it's all woven together. It all comes back to money. And if you do like I do, former intel officer operating in Vietnam, not far from Hamburger Hill in 1969. And I was with a group that was our Marine Corps version of the Green Berets. I was fluent in Vietnamese, and I learned counterintelligence and intelligence and things of that nature. And that's helped me a lot to find all these terrorists or people linked to terrorists. She hasn't killed anybody, and I don't think she's beaten up anybody, but she's certainly linked to terrorists. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so now this is all dovetailed together by, again, Saudi Arabian money, the death knell of every republic. So let's go to clip number 14. Clip number 14.
Thank you all very much for your hospitality. We've just had a wide-ranging discussions on the matter at hand. Like the good folks standing with me, the American people were appalled and outraged at last Tuesday's attacks. And so were Muslims all across the world. Both Americans, our Muslim friends and citizens, tax-paying citizens.
Okay, so George W. Bush, he's in a Muslim Brotherhood mosque. It's right after they blew up the World Trade Center. He's surrounded by Muslim Brotherhood. These Muslim Brotherhood, 100% of them are all financed, again, by Saudi Arabia, Saudi petrodollars. That's the Saudi Arabian king superimposed over a dollar. You have the network of intrigue right here with the spider web. You got the euro, of course, you got the pound, the yen, and everything else, all working together. Now, George W. Bush, I know for a fact, was fooled by the Muslim Brotherhood. I actually met with the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood just after the World Trade Center was blown up. Muslim Brotherhood leader for all of North America, and he was at his mosque in Garden Grove, California. I was there with several other guys, and he told us how he fooled George W. Bush. For one thing, it was real easy because George W. Bush was a failed businessman, and the Saudi Arabians had bailed him out with millions of dollars of cash, and he, lo and behold, became their good buddies. Now, his dad, George Herbert Walker Bush, was also very deeply involved with the Saudi Arabians and had taken tons and tons of cash working with them through his empire, too. So you had Daddy Bush and Baby Bush joined together through cash, taking money through the Saudi Arabians, who fund more terrorism than Iran does by a factor of 10. They hide it through Hawala, which we've discussed about in this show. So, in 2004, I was hired by General Mattis, now Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, who never went to Vietnam. He's 18 days older than me, never went to Vietnam. He was never in close combat until he was 41 years old, and truly was not close combat because he was a battalion commander in Desert Storm. He was there, and then he did some other giant battles. He's a very competent general. However, he's an immoral man. And when I say an immoral man, when I was hired by General Mattis' staff to teach what I did in Vietnam, gathering human intelligence surrounded by the North Vietnamese Army, they wanted to do that in Iraq. And when I did my first lecture, we were discussing with the Marines that Iraqi Islamic battle planning is based on what did Muhammad do. And foolish me, we began to explain to the Marines that Muhammad was basically a lunatic and crazy, and that he lied, and he definitely believed in the Al-Wala and Wal-Bara, the Wal-Bara, to hate all infidels and to love all Wala, to love all Muslims, and how this was worked out. And if they went to Iraq or Afghanistan, that they could expect that they would probably be treated very well, but all the stuff that they were doing would be turned against them and kill them, which indeed is what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan while we were a failure there. Now, General Mattis was in charge of 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, and then I was hired to help the Marines understand how we operated in Vietnam, that they want to do in Iraq. What I did in Vietnam was an 18-year-old kid. And I told them, I said point blank, look, what we did in Vietnam is not going to work in Iraq. And they said, why not? And I said, because they're Muslims. And their answer to me was, what does religion have to do with it? Now, that was General Mattis. General Zinni of the Marine Corps, same thing. I never met him. I never talked to him. I never talked to his staff. But I know from reading that he actually aided and abetted the Saudi Arabians and helped them as they were under senatorial investigation. General Allen came out and supported the Taliban and the Afghanis when some people allegedly burned up some Qurans. Clip number 15. Clip number 15.
I think this is a war between evil people that are willing to kill on a mass scale, people that would like to end up with weapons of mass destruction and even kill more than they did.
So what he said at the beginning may have been cut out, but I've shown that video a number of times on these different shows. He said, I don't think this is a religious war. It absolutely 100% is a religious war. Wherever Islam goes, it always becomes jihad. That's how they spread dawah. That's how they spread Islam around the world, jihad. And so it automatically becomes a religious war. Now, I was a United States Marine. My son was United States Army, uncle United States Air Force, and we were all in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Afghanistan and stuff too. We all are a very small minority of America. America, through taxes and support, aids and abets the American military, which you're supposed to do because we like our way of life and we take an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But we're a very small minority, but we are loved by probably 85 to 90% of the Americans. In Islam, it works the same way. You have a very small percentage, 1% or less, who actually goes out and does suicide bombing, shooting people, raping people, killing people, intimidating people. And so we know, however, that the Marines and the Army and Air Force and the Navy in the United States cannot operate without the support and help financially and psychologically and working with us in our web of network to protect the fruited plains of America. And it works the same way with Islam. The 1% depends on the 99%, and of that 90%, you have from low level doing almost nothing to high level 5-year-old boys in Iraq and Afghanistan using cell phones to alert their big brother and dad that the Army and the Marines are leaving the base and go kill them. It's all woven together. When you get Islam, period, when you get Islam, you get dawah. When you get Christianity, you get evangelization. Under Christianity with evangelization, we speak, we talk, we reason. We might look outlandish and silly, but we do not beat up people. We don't kill them. We don't rape them. If we're bona fide Christian missionaries, we go out and we talk. And we help. We help. True religion and Christianity is taking care of widows and orphans, and that's what we do. We go out and do things of that nature. Now, in Islam, they come out, and we know eventually it's going to come to physical warfare, jihad, holy war. We know that. So whenever you let 1,000 Muslims into a country, you can expect at least 1 to 5%. So out of 1,000, 10 to 50, 1% to 5% are going to try to kill you. That is the mechanics of Islam. And sadly, these generals that I showed you here, General Allen, General Zinni, and General Mattis, they don't understand this because, as they told me when I told them my system of gathering human intelligence was not going to work in Iraq because, and they said, why won't it work? And I said, because they're Muslims. And their answer was, what does religion have to do with it? Now, we've spoken many times on these different shows, the symbiotic relationship between common law, governance, and religion, and we've shown this picture many, many times too, that indeed the difference between Christianity and Islam is very simple. Islam is based on Surah 860, which is the logo of the Muslim Brotherhood, which all of the people that I showed you earlier are members of the Muslim Brotherhood. Surah 860, to jihad and terrorize the infidels. Under Christianity, true religion is James 1:27, to take care of widows and orphans. So, clip number 16. Clip number 16.
People that are willing to kill on a mass scale, people that would like to end up with weapons of mass destruction and even kill more than they did in New York City and
But you've used
Washington,
a phrase that
D.C.
interests me, which is you said freedom is a gift of the Almighty.
It is.
And if you're the agent of freedom, or consider yourself so in this, does that indicate in your mind that the Almighty is on our side in some way?
Charlie, I think that you shouldn't try to read too much into what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a truth. And the truth is people yearn to be free, no matter who they are or what their religion is. Freedom is ingrained in people's souls. Freedom was not placed there by the United States. It was, my judgment, it was placed there by something greater, the Almighty.
Do we all worship the same God, Christian and Muslim?
I think we do.
Does
We have different routes of getting to the Almighty.
So we all worship the same God. So according to him, the triune God of Christianity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, are Allah. That Allah is the Trinity. The Trinity is Allah. That's what he just said. So you can sense now this president of ours, George W. Bush, when he got involved doing stuff, when he first got elected, this guy here, Grover Norquist, who's a big-time Republican and married to a Muslim Brotherhood woman, and he came out and helped get money through the Saudi Arabians, and that's why I started with this picture here, that Grover Norquist took that money from Saudi Arabia and got it over into George W. Bush's hands, and George W. Bush working with this Muslim Brotherhood operative here in California, and that Grover Norquist has the Islamic Free Institute, which is Muslim Brotherhood, and every Monday morning they would meet together, and all of the Republicans would come because they wanted MONEY from Saudi Arabia. They wanted money to run for office. So you just heard from George W. Bush, number one, it's not a religious war, and number two, that Allah is the same as a triune God. And so when I was fired by this guy, General Mattis, because when I was explaining battle planning to the Marines and that it was based on what did Muhammad do, 22 verses in the Quran, this guy here had been influenced by this Muslim Brotherhood operative, Grover Norquist, one of the most powerful conservative Republican Americans in America, with his CPAC, Conservative Political Action Committee, and also working hand in glove with this guy here, Suhail Khan, who's related to all of these other Muslim Brotherhoods. When that happened, then it came out later on that George W. Bush at his Crawford Ranch in Texas had this terrorist here, Prince Bandar, who gave $130,000 to two of the guys that flew into the World Trade Center. Oh, what a terrible web we do weave when at first we practice to deceive, and it all comes back to the love of money is the root of all evil, and foreign money, foreign intrigue is the death knell of every republic. Clip number 6. Clip number 6.
And welcome to City Hall for this memorable occasion, and on behalf of a very grateful city, and I know a very grateful police department, we would like to welcome you to the memorial ceremony for Dr. Maher Hathout. Before I get started, I just would like to acknowledge my boss, Assistant Chief Mike Moore. Also the new, he used to be my partner in SAC. He's been promoted to the Assistant Director in Charge, Dave Bowditch from the FBI. And the Special Agent in Charge, Kendrick Williams, FBI, who many of you know from years ago. And then I also see the Los Angeles Sheriff, Jim McDonald. Welcome. So hello everyone.
Cut! There you go. Good. So he's acknowledging again this terrorist here, Muslim Brotherhood terrorist. This is his death. That was his funeral memorial at Los Angeles. So we're memorializing a terrorist from Egypt who was thrown into prison for 5 years in Egypt for being a member of the Muslim Brotherhood and conspiring to do terrorist things. And again, that two-star officer, counterterrorism officer, Michael Downing, he's crowing in other clips that we've shown in What Did Mohammed Do 100, 101, and 102. This will be What Did Mohammed Do 103. He's crowing about the $50 million that came from Saudi Arabia and Qatar and other terrorist funding nations who are doing dawah to come in board and to lie and to take over the United States. So you got the Muslim Brotherhood, Marjati, Maher Hathout, supported by the LAPD, and then you have this character here. This is Hussam Ayloush, who's in charge of the Council on American Islamic Relations, clearly Muslim Brotherhood. I took this picture from his Facebook page years ago. The four fingers means he's Muslim Brotherhood, and this symbol up here means that he supports ISIS and al-Nusra, and these guys were all working together. All working together in California. These guys were only miles apart, and they actually knew and were linked in to the guy who helped blow up the World Trade Center. And it all goes back to this. This is the Shahada. In fact, this is the flag of Saudi Arabia. Underneath here, they would have a sword because the Shahada, there is no Allah but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger, the Raisuli. That this is how they spread Islam. That they come in and they use any method that they can by lying. The four Arabic words are Taqiyya, Kitman, Maruna, and Tariya, and then they fool everybody. So, clip number 7. Clip number 7.
To the people that were in the room, there were probably 150 people here. And I said, how many of you believe that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land and is the rule of law in this country? And 100% of the people raised their hands. Totally disarmed this individual, completely.
What he's going, that's Michael Downing, the same fella that was up there at the podium talking about the funeral and memorial of Maher Hathout. He's completely hornswoggled and bamboozled by the Muslim Brotherhood. In fact, it's so deep he can't understand that ISIS, that these people here are using and operating under the Shahada, which is the mainstay and the logo of every Muslim terrorist group in the world. Their songs are all the same. If you go to them, they're all talking about for the love of Allah. And of course, here you have ISIS. And we do also know now, they've come out with some articles recently in 2017. For years, I have been going down to the Arizona border and observing the Muslim Brotherhood, the Muslim terrorists coming across the border in Arizona and watching them. They had 5 ISIS guys that were caught not too far from some of my relatives down there by Sierra Vista in Arizona. And now, as that was happening, and I watched what was unfolding because of my training as an intelligence officer in the Marine Corps in Vietnam when I was 18 years old, and I saw how they moved people in coordinated and worked together, the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army. When I saw the people coming across the San Pedro River and using that as a road to get up and flow throughout all of the United States with drug cartels, I knew immediately that the connections between the drug cartels, Sinaloa and Los Zatos, were actually working with the Muslim Brotherhood too, and that they were coming together as they sold drugs and stripping off money and sending it to fund terrorism around the world. This gal here, Ladina Lekovic, she's Muslim Brotherhood. She works with these other characters that I've been showing. And if you talk to her or you listen to her, she sounds like a really nice gal. She's extremely intelligent. She used to be managing editor for the Al-Talib, or the student magazine, where one of her people underneath her wrote that Osama bin Laden was a wonderful guy, a freedom fighter, and she denied that. Now, she was picked by Salam Mariyati and by Hod Hoot to be on MPAC, that's the Muslim Public Affairs Council, which is Muslim Brotherhood. So we will go to clip number 13 now. Clip number 13. Clip number 13.
Rather than force them into either incarceration or go join a violent extremist group abroad. But again,
we're out of time. That's great. We did a good job, and keep watching these things. These will be very important in 10, 15, 20 years. Right now, everybody thinks I'm a kook and a crazy man, but in 10, 15, 20 years, all this is going to be proven, and people will be watching this. God bless you all. Adios.
في كتير طرق وسط الحياة تاهوا فيها ناس، وطرق تبان مفروشة ورد وتنتهي بألم وضيق، لكن الطريق للفرحة وطريق الخلاص عند المسيح، أصل المسيح